Morning, family. Um, I know that I had started something, and no matter how when you start a series on something, you end up getting interrupted for something. Um, but today, I wanted to talk about gratitude. Being as we were just in the Thanksgiving holiday, and we're moving into Christmas, which is should involve a Thanksgiving all on its own. Um, And I just wanted to share today some scriptures that help me feel thankful and maybe give us a better understanding of what we're supposed to be thankful for from an eternal Christian perspective. I it's so easy to find myself envious. It's so easy for me to, think about, what advantages other people have. Man, what I could do if I had, that guy's money, or what I could do if I had a house like that guy, what I could do if I had that guy's job, or, what I wouldn't give to have, have the size of that massive family that he has, and man, what I'd be able to do all kinds of stuff for people if I had a four-wheeler, right? It's so easy to look at the lives of other people and only consider what they have that you don't. But I'm finding as I grow in my understanding of my value as a Christian that it all ends up being a matter of perspective. Really, it's envy's greatest opponent is just perspective. Because the fact is, those people I'm looking at and I'm envious of, I've got a lot of gifts and blessings that they don't enjoy. It's all a matter of perspective. So I learned to deal with the hardships of life through humor. I learned to deal with things that way from a very early age. And so I tend to make jokes that many would probably tell you are inappropriate. Most of those people really don't have any bearing on the subject matter of the joke. For instance, especially around friends and family, I make a lot of jokes about my being an orphan because that's how I've learned to deal with that. Now, most people are completely appalled when that starts happening. And then other people have learned, no, Nathan's really okay with this. And it's, he just finds a way to see humor in it. But there was one point, especially my friends and Thanksgiving showed that Landon has now entered into this category of people who are comfortable joining in on those jokes. But my friends have gotten comfortable very early on with cracking these jokes on my behalf too. And it's something like, somebody who says something bad about me and my buddy Chafer goes, it's probably because you're an orphan. If your parents don't love you, I don't know why you expect them to. Now it seems really mean, but for us, it's just good fun, But I had somebody ask me about that, about how, well, doesn't that make you sad? Like, it's been the fact of my life for 3 decades. Man, I got over the sadness a long time ago, and for me, it's a matter of perspective. I was telling Rose this just the other day too. People look at my life, they're like, but you missed out. You missed out on holidays, and you missed out on the great things that come from having a family and all of this. And I said, yeah, but think about how much money I've saved on Mother's Day gifts and Father's Day gifts. I say all that to kind of bring some levity to the lesson at hand, but it goes to show it's all a matter of perspective. And whether we see something as a blessing in our lives or not depends a lot on the point of view that we're deciding to take. Now, we can look at the hardships in our life and we can view them as this horrible thing and woe is me and this guy doesn't have to go through this. This is unfair. Or we can look at it as if God is allowing your soul to be tested, then clearly he has faith that you have the ability to come out on the other side better for it. That means God trusts that you're strong enough, and that's a blessing all on its own. Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 through 7 says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." So the point I want to point out, and it's pretty on the nose. I know I found the verse that says thanksgiving in it. But I really want to look at what it says about Thanksgiving, right? Because we look at the word and it's just the title of a holiday, but we have to keep in mind it's a word that literally means to give thanks. Interesting, then, how few of our prayers are I shouldn't say ours, okay? It's unfair for me to blanket statement this. But it's interesting how many people I have heard pray in public or in a Christian setting whose prayer never involves thanks. We're okay making a list of all of our requests. Please pray for this person. They're sick. Please pray for this person. They're going into surgery. Please pray for me because, I'm broke and miserable most of the time. And please pray for Dave so that he doesn't quit on us. And please pray, and on and on and on. And at no point do we just say, God, thank you. Thank you for the blessings that you've given me. Thank you for giving me people to pray for. There are people in this world lonely enough that they don't have a reason to pray for people because there are no people. So, yes, the idea is that we're not to be anxious in life because we have the ability to cast our cares on God. But there should always be this underlying heart state of being thankful. Thankful that, you have such a life that these are your problems. You think about that. My life is so good that my being 5 minutes late to an appointment is like earth-shattering, devastating. And most of you guys are a lot like how I grew up, where that's unacceptable, okay? So I'm not saying that that's not. I'd still find it. But how good is my life when that's my biggest fear of the day, is that I'm going to be late for an appointment? How good is my life when my biggest concern is whether or not somebody is going to say something that I might not like? Man, that is a blessed life if that's the biggest worry I've got out of the day. And we don't often think about that. We don't think about the fact that, I don't have to wake up and worry about whether I'm going to get jumped on my way into my job. I don't have to worry about whether or not my windows are going to get shot out while we're sleeping at night. I don't have to worry. I'm not worried about somebody breaking into our house. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I'm not aware that can't happen. But, I'm not overly concerned about it. I've got a good, strong door with a good, strong lock in a nice, quiet neighborhood. There's a lot of people that can't say that. I've got a nice bed, comfortable, easy to sleep on. It wasn't that long ago I remember sleeping in a porta potty. How good is my life that my concerns are so small as this? I really think that if we're going to talk about Thanksgiving, we need to keep that in our minds. Don't get me wrong, there's troubles. Troubles abound. And guess what? They're never going to end. Because the bigger your life gets, the more petty your anxieties are going to be. They're always going to be there. You keep casting them on God. And be thankful. This is my point in Philippians. This is my point. Be thankful that your anxieties and your concerns are not bigger than they are, because they could be. James chapter 1, verse 17 through 18 says, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change. Of his own will he brought us forth by the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his creatures. Now, there's a whole idea in first fruits, but I want to hone in on this first part of James chapter 1, that verse 17. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above. So what should you be thankful for? What gifts do you have in life? That's the real question. Are you gifted with intellect? Are you gifted with a strong body? Are you gifted with a naturally strong spirit? Does spiritual matters come easy to you? Do intellectual matters come easy to you? Does physical labor come easy to you? You know what? Do you just have a good, strong family that'll support you when you're not strong in those departments? What do you have in life that are gifts? Do you have a special skill that you didn't have to work particularly hard to gain, that God just gifted you with that? Like me, I have gift of gab. I can do this all day, and you guys will get tired before I do, I promise. So what gifts do you have? And then understand that those came from God. And I don't mean just in some vague sense, God created us and he created us the way we are. And no, I mean, he set you aside and said, these gifts are for you. Like a Christmas morning, he made you, he made the idea of you, and he said, I have set apart these things for you. Do we think about that as we live life? Yeah, I look around me and I try my hardest not to tell people, there are people less fortunate than you. Of course there are. We shouldn't have to keep reminding each other of the less fortunate like that. That's not the point. The point is not that I should remember how unfortunate other people are. The point is I need to remember how fortunate I am. Because you know what? I could struggle with understanding the Bible, and God has blessed me with every gift I need to find that reading my Bible is quite easy and enjoyable. I grew up with the gift of having a natural love for reading. My parents didn't teach me to love reading. In fact, they hated the fact that I read as much as I did. My teachers even hated the fact of how much I read. And honestly, if you saw a 7-year-old kid walking up and down the halls like there's no care in the world with his Face Painter book, you'd probably get pretty sick of it too. The Bible is so fun for me to read. It's not that way for some people. Some people really struggle to get through any kind of reading, let alone the kind of tough stuff that's in the Bible. I'm blessed. I'm blessed with the ability to articulate clearly what I've found in Scripture. Not everybody can do that. Some people struggle with putting thoughts to words. I'm blessed with a good sound body. Not everybody has that. Some of you are in the state here this morning that you completely understand what I'm saying, and you're probably thinking, Nathan, you don't even understand half of what you're saying at this point. Like I said, I'm not encouraging you to constantly remember that there are people, like your parents, you said, there are people starving in Africa. Well, you go ahead and go give this slop to them. All right? I'm not telling you to remember all the time, you know what, there are people worse off than you, Mr. Zacharias. You need to be thankful. But I do want to urge you to think about all the gifts in your life and remember that they come from above. There's no earning them. There's no building up of them. No one else imparted them on you. The Father of lights who crafted you in the womb, set aside these things for you. And that's pretty awesome. Luke chapter 10, verse 17 through 20. The 72 returned with joy. And as we talked about this morning, about how Jesus didn't just have 12 disciples, right? The 72 returned with joy, saying, Lord, even the demons are subject to us in your name. And he said to them, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. Behold, I have given you authority to tread on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall hurt you. Nevertheless, do not rejoice in this, that the spirits are subject to you, but rejoice that your names are written in heaven. Now you think about how awesome that power is. I am so blessed by God that I can tell Satan to stand aside and he'll do so. I can cast a demon out from somebody just because I invoke the name of my master. That's pretty cool. Now, I don't care how scary you thought The Exorcist was. That's pretty cool. And it says something about what God thinks of these men, that he gave them that ability and that authority. And he says, there's no need to rejoice in that. That's nothing. The bigger thing is that your names are recorded in heaven for the purpose of populating heaven. That's the awesome thing. And it goes right back to James chapter 1, verse 17 through 18. Every good gift. Your name being written in that book of life, man, God help you if you thought you could climb up there and write that down yourself. You think about all the horrible things that you've done in your life, every terrible thing. And God assures you that he cares so very deeply that if you only commit yourself to him, he's going to not only make sure you live forever, but he's going to welcome you into his home forever. That's a big deal. There's a lot of people I know fairly well I wouldn't welcome into my home on a temporary basis. To me, that is some of the most powerful statements you'll find on joy and thanksgiving in the entire Bible, because you know what? It doesn't matter how bad of a day you've got. Doesn't matter how many people are talking ill to you. It doesn't matter how many things aren't going your way. You know, I'm the kind of guy that if I get told to take the sheets off the bed, I have to prepare myself, because I think fitted sheets are the most frustrating, absolutely horrible invention mankind has ever made. I get so impatient and so frustrated that if I pull on a fitted sheet and it doesn't come off the mattress, I actually go into rage. Right? Like I'm ready to burn this sheet because it defied me. All right, I am that childish sometimes. So you could about imagine what it's like if I wake up and the car doesn't start, and then I get to church and I find out I left my keys at home, so I got to turn around, drive all the way back home, get my keys, then I come back and realize I forgot my laptop. And this has happened, guys. There has been days where I did not get to start working until afternoon because I had to make 3 trips home because I was that unorganized that day. If I get that mad about a fitted sheet, you can about imagine what state of mind I'm in by then. And so you have these days that they do not go the way you want them to. And people aren't treating you the way that you want them to. And life in general is just down the toilet. And your name is written in the book of life. I'm still going to get frustrated over a fitted sheet that defies me. But I certainly have no business allowing that to control how I act or control my general state of mind for that day. Because my name is written in the book of life. And if Jesus Christ tells his people that that should bring you more joy than even the ability to cast out demons, then surely it should bring me more joy than to be able to remember everything I need for the day, or to be able to pull off the sheets of my bed in one fell swoop. Thank God my life is so good that that's a problem for me, right? Psalms 13, 5-6 says, But I have trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me. Now, understand, we're not all kings. All right? We're not all Solomon. We're not all David. But for those of you that have been here for Wednesday nights, you'll recognize we are royal priests. And that brings a title and a position all its own, with its own responsibilities and its own glories and its own blessings. But our joy doesn't come from the Lord dealing bountifully with us. Our joy comes from the salvation promised. And that's as massive as that salvation is, it's actually only a fraction of the blessings. That's massive. God, Jesus Christ, tells us the greatest joy you should have is the fact that I have welcomed you forever. And then we get to Psalms 13, 5-6, and he agrees. Our joy should come from the salvation promised, and that's only a part of the bounty. Do we feel this blessed, church? You know, I brought up the whole orphan thing, and while most of the time I can joke about it, and there are certain lessons in the Bible that are difficult for me coming out of that. And one of those is that very first line. I have trusted in your steadfast love. And if I'm willing to wager a guess, I'm guessing that there's more than a few of you that struggle with that too. The book of life is eternal. It's a recording of eternity. And it's written by somebody of eternity. You know, interestingly enough, I've talked to you guys about this, there's like 6 different tenses in Greek, right? There's all these different, like, it's written in this tense, and so it's like all the time, always, and it's written in this tense, so it's only happened in the past. It's written in this tense, so it's happened in the past, and it continues in the future. It's written in this tense, so it starts now and then continues in the future. On and on, you know, there's like 6 different tenses, all have like weird different meanings, completely change what the sentence is supposed to mean. You know, and the really cool thing, when you look at God and Jesus's quotations directly, it's only using 2 tenses. There is past tense and there is perfect tense. Jesus Christ never uses any of the other 4 tenses. With Jesus, it's always this already is done or this will be forever. And you can about imagine what tense sin is talked about in and what tense salvation is talked about in. God gives me, and because that kind of stuff speaks to me more than a well-worded lesson, or because it speaks to me more than just somebody I care about telling me that Jesus loves me forever. That word study, that understanding of Jesus using those 2 tenses speaks volumes to somebody like me. And isn't it cool that Jesus, God, always provides us with what we need so that we can be admonished and encouraged to that line right there. He always gives us exactly what we as individuals need so that we can get to a point where we trust in his steadfast love. I have one more verse I want to share with you guys tonight. It's not on my slideshow. In Psalms 58, Psalms 58 is all dealing with overcoming our enemies and how God will judge the unrighteous and how God will deal with that. And it's a lot of fire and brimstone lesson. It's actually pretty fun and pretty cool and pretty scary. But in verse 11, the writer writes, mankind will say, surely there is a reward for the righteous. Surely there is a God who judges on earth. So I hope that you're getting this completed picture that all of this brought for me. God loves you. He gives you all of these gifts. He gives you something so great that it is a better joy bringer than anything you'll ever come across. That is our salvation. And then he counts it to you as righteousness that you have been saved. He saved you and then called you righteous because of it. And then we're told that he's going to reward us for the righteousness that we've done nothing about. So let's talk about how unfair God is. Because the way I see it, viewing my life, viewing the scriptures, viewing all of the things we talked about this morning, the way I see it, fair would require an awful high cost from me. I thank God every day that he's not concerned with being fair. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to take away from everything that this holiday means to so many of you guys. You should absolutely be thankful for all the other blessings God has given you, for your family, for your friends, for your loved ones. Lord knows I am thankful beyond belief for the fact that I have a daughter to share this holiday with. And some of you can just about imagine how massive that's been for me for the last for this year. You know, last year we had Thanksgiving like the day after she came home from the hospital. So Thanksgiving was not really a massive concern for us that day. But you can about imagine how big it's been for me this year compared to how little it's meant every year before this. And so I don't want you to think that I don't believe in being thankful for all this stuff. I absolutely encourage you to be thankful for the blessings God has given you. But I urge you to understand that those blessings came from God. This idea of being thankful should not be this vague, just, I'm a thankful person. Be thankful to God. That would be like having a general sense of gratitude that somebody bought you a birthday present versus being thankful to that person for giving you a birthday present. Do you understand the difference? But more than that, no matter how great your family is, no matter how many blessings you've enjoyed in life, no matter how many gifts you can number, and I hope that they are beyond numbering, rejoice overall that your name is written in the book of life. And this morning, I want to encourage you guys, if you're unsure of that, don't leave here questioning. There's so many, it's so easy to either start being confused as to the things we've already learned. You know, sometimes we can I can attest, sometimes I can dive so far into a rabbit hole that I forgot what my original lesson was. Yeah. Sam can tell you. I'm sure Dave and anyone else who's ever preached a sermon can tell you what I mean by that. And sometimes our faith can look a lot the same way. We can dive so far down on these, on certain ideas or details or these side issues that we've completely forgotten that original lesson that brought us here in the first place. It's so easy. It is so easy to fall into the trap of questioning our salvation. I don't want you guys to leave. If you are here this morning and you have doubts as far as that goes, don't leave. Whatever you've got going on today can wait another day. It can wait for another hour. It can wait for another week. I promise you there is nothing out there that is so important that it overshadows your assurity for eternity. And so this morning, I want to encourage you guys, if you are in a state where you are stumbling in sin or stumbling in confusion, if you need prayers, tell us about that so that we can pray for you. Why have such a great resource as the body of saints if you're not going to utilize it? Yeah, I remember reading a story. I don't even remember what preacher. Honestly, I don't think anyone knows what preacher it came from anymore because there's so many that have passed it off on as their own story. But a story of a man who's out on a boat in the middle of the ocean, and his boat capsizes and sinks. And so he's sitting here treading water, and this ship comes by. And, the captain of the ship, he says, "Sir, do you need some help? We'll throw you a life jacket. We'll throw you a line. We'll bring you on board." He goes, "No, it's fine. I prayed to God. God's going to save me. It's fine. You go on your way." And so the ship leaves, and another ship comes by, and he goes, "Sir, we're going to come right down in a boat. We're going to come get you. We're going to save you. Everything's going to be fine." He goes, "No, it's fine. I prayed about it. God's going to save me. You go on your way so that God can save me." And so the next ship leaves, and then the news gets inland, and they send a helicopter, and this helicopter comes out, and this guy rappels out of a helicopter. He said, "Everything's going to be fine, sir. We're going to get you in. We're going to take a look at you. You are safe. Everything's going to be fine." He said, No. I prayed about it. I prayed to God. God's going to save me. You go ahead. There's no point in wasting your time on me. God's going to save me. Then the guy proceeds to drown, and he goes up to heaven. He goes, "God, I prayed. Why didn't you?" He said, "I sent you 2 ships and a helicopter." Now, I want you to think about this. When I bring up that story, I'm talking about this idea of asking for prayers and how important it is. God sends you and surrounds you with this life raft that you're supposed to be walking alongside. And some of us are okay not putting it on. He gives us this life jacket that is our fellow saints, and then we want to complain when we go off the side of the boat and can't float. If you are questioning your salvation, if you are questioning anything in life, if you're stumbling in sin, if you're stumbling in confusion, bring it to us. Let us be that life raft for you. Let us enter prayers on your behalf. Because the simple fact is, we love you too much to not do so. If you have struggles with another person in the church or with the church as a whole, if you're seeking reconciliation this morning, I want you to bring that forward too. The fact is that whatever you're talking about in life, it doesn't matter what analogy you want to draw from here. If you want to continue on with the boat idea, if you want to jump to the helicopter for some reason, if you want to talk about a nation, a country, or a household, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. Nothing works if we're not in it together. If you find yourself disunified with your brother or sister this morning, we want you to make that known too, so that we can help you seek reconciliation. Understand, when we ask you to bring these things forward, we're not asking for your shame. We're not concerned. I'm not concerned with your shame, right? Guilt is for the guilty. If you feel guilty, that's between you and God. That's not my concern. My concern is for your soul. And if you're in sin, I don't want you to continue in sin. If you find yourself disunified, I don't want you to continue in that disunity. I certainly don't want you to feel at odds with your congregation as a whole. Seek out that reconciliation. Let us know about it so that we can help you in that path. And if you are in the state where you're sure that you're not saved, if you're sure that your name isn't in that book of life, we want you to come forward and make that known too. Help us seek that out with you. Let us study with you. Let us talk to you about this. I know we're getting close to lunch, but I promise you, you're not going to starve to death if you sit and talk with us for an hour or two, or 20 minutes, or 10 minutes, depending on which one of us you get. Don't come to me if you're looking for a 10-minute lesson. Whatever your needs may be this morning, we urge you, we implore you to bring those needs forward and make them known so that we can help you see them met as we stand and sing.